Hello, I'm Natalia Torfik. I'm a social and video content marketer at Clockify, and in today's interview, we'll be talking to Juan Faisal.
How you doing?
Hi, how are you?
I'm pretty good. How about yourself?
I'm good. It's nice to meet you. I'm Natalia. Lovely to meet you, Juan. I've heard a lot about you, so it's great to finally have you in this interview today. So I've got a lot of questions for you,
Mm-hmm.
I want to discuss first of all. So your portfolio is really versatile. So you've done a
Mm-hmm.
lot of different things. You've even worked with the Hard Rock Cafe, right? And video content and photography, all of that, social media strategy.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just going to start with basically, I don't know, I kind of got a feeling from everything that I've read about you and everything that our
Mm-hmm.
researchers at Clockify have done, some
Mm-hmm.
background checking on all of your work,
Mm-hmm.
that video production is kind of like your main thing, right? Or am I wrong?
No, you're not wrong. I love video. Video is what literally brought me where I am in my career right now. So it's one of the things I enjoy the most. I still have that childlike attraction, and kind of like having fun. Like I still remember, it's kind of like even to this day, I still remember how I felt the first time I had a camera in my hands as a 10-year-old, back when it wasn't that available. Like we're talking cameras, friend of a friend had a camera, it just was such a feeling of magic, and to this day still remains. So yeah, absolutely. You got it right.
Okay, that's cool. So what age did you actually start? What was that first time that you took that camera, that
I
first
mean, I
camera?
was an 8-year old and I was already creating content, by I have like this tape recorder. So I'll like use another tape recorder because I didn't have the double deck, and I'll like maybe record like little radio shows for my family to listen to in the car, So I'll be like talking, then I'll like play another thing right
Oh,
next to the
wow.
microphone. So that was like a 9-year old, with my brother. And then video, like I'd say 12 years old, a friend of my mom had a camera so I could drive her insane, to play with the camera, be in front of it, film my sister. Well, one of my sisters, the other one wasn't born yet. So, so yeah, just like 12 years old, but it wasn't that available back then. Also living in Argentina, we just couldn't afford those things. Uh, but yeah, it always, I always remember that sense of wonder, and just feeling like in a way you're like to say, creating magic, even though it sounds like such a cliche thing to say,
I
but
don't
it is true.
Yeah, I don't think it's cliche. I think it's like that, right? A lot of these things that are kind of feel magical to us, a lot of people kind of say the same thing. So then it becomes a cliche, but it's actually true. So
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't say it's cliche.
Mm-hmm.
So obviously video production is like a really broad term, right? So
Mm-hmm.
are there any, specific processes that you enjoy doing the most? Like, is it the editing, the filming, the research, script writing, all of it?
Well, I, I've been lucky enough to do all of it, which is great because it gives you better understanding, not only of the workflow and the challenges, but also like I've edited. So when I speak to an editor, you know, I know what they're going through. I know what challenges they're going to have. I know what I like as a video editor, even like file naming, and not having to hunt like the sound file from one side and then the video file from the other. I definitely do not enjoy editing. So I
Okay.
can tell you that I can do it. I try to do it at least once a month or something. So it keeps me, you know, like still sharp on my skills. But I'd say mostly it's the curiosity aspect, that part when you're still a little bit of anxious because you don't really know what you're getting into or you're trying to learn about if it's a new client, but also that's curiosity is the main driver, like just being able to jump into something new, learn about it. I really enjoy knowledge. That's kind of like the main driver. So it's kind of going in this treasure hunt to learn about what you're going to create and then seeing it come to life. That doesn't mean that it's not going to be frustrating, that there are not going to be things that are stressing about it. Most of the times there are stressing things about it. I don't need to tell anyone about that. But at the end of the day, I'd say the first part, I mean, well, like, where are we getting ourselves into? And then, like, when you see it go live, and just kind of like see it out into the world and see how it works. I think those are the two most rewarding parts for me.
Okay, that's cool. But which parts are the most demanding? You mentioned a little bit now which parts are demanding, but which one would you say for sure?
Let's say maybe you can relate to this. You're talking to your client and maybe they give you two totally opposite things. It's like, we have no budget, but I would really like it to be like that ad from Nike, we just have a small budget. So, or sometimes you have people that are going to have different visions about how to get it done, and you're the service provider. So, well, you can bring the conversation like, hey, folks, we need to answer a couple of questions here. Sometimes you do need to have that kind of like the art of making everyone happy while trying to fulfill totally different goals or agendas, or one team is motivated to move forward because this will provide X benefit, but the other team, they just see it as more workload on their side, so they're not as motivated to collaborate, and you cannot fault them for that because maybe they're dealing with 20 other projects. So it's like, how do we bring everyone together while also dealing, keeping the people working on the team happy, making sure they're getting paid on time. So I would say people management, expectation management, and I'd say challenging, not necessarily something that it's dreadful, I don't want to do, but it does take a lot of energy, and sometimes it does feel like an art to just bring everyone together and get them to agree on what they want to see. Because one of the things I've learned, it's like, sometimes if you just try to please everyone and if you're afraid to ask the hard questions, which doesn't necessarily mean you need to be an a-hole, but sometimes you do need to be like, hey, let me rephrase this question, So I'd say that part, it's exhausting sometimes. It's also very rewarding. I enjoy it, but it doesn't mean that it doesn't take a toll sometimes,
So it's demanding, but also at the same time, you feel like it's a reward, right? When you actually get all the people on the same page, it's demanding until you get there, but once you do, it's perfect.
Yeah, at the end of the day, I see what I do as a service. I started as a kid working in customer service. My first job was in a call center, and while I hated every minute of it, I did learn a lot. I could appreciate that later in my career. If you ask my 20-year-old self or 19-year-old self, they'd be like, what are you saying? We hate this job. But, it did teach me that things, you're providing a service. At the end of the day, you can agree or disagree with the methods of your client, but you're providing a service and they're paying for it. And while you might choose later not to work with that client again, because maybe, it didn't work out, maybe you see that it's not worth the cost. And, I always try to keep that mindset that I'm providing a service. So I try to keep that service attitude about it.
That's a really good way to look at it, because it kind of makes it easier, right? So you have this goal in mind that you're providing a service, so it makes all of these little nuances on along the way easier. So you said that you worked in that call center. So what did you take from that? So now looking back, when you, as you said, 20-something-year-old, what did you take from it that helps you, like a concrete thing?
First of all, understanding how to communicate from people from different walks of life. We're talking a long time ago, outsourcing was just happening, so many native speakers, they'd call into the phone line and their expectation was, they get a native and then they're getting like someone that is like, hi, my name is Jay. My name is Juan. It's not Jay. But back then we had to pretend, so my name is Jay. And I'm like, I cannot tell you where I'm located for security reasons, so some people were super curious. Some others were like, you're stealing jobs, so it's really like starting to understand people, the kind of things that would trigger someone, both in a positive and negative way. So it really started like kind of like building that skill of learning how to talk to people in an effective way, which took me decades to polish. It's not like I got it right at 20 years. I definitely didn't get it right. You kind of like learn and go, oh god. Yeah, but it's like slowly but surely, I'd say I feel confident about my ability to do that. Doesn't mean that I still do not have a lot to learn. Also, it's important to keep that attitude. That's number one. Number two, setting expectations. I don't know if it happens to you when I call customer service. Obviously, like anyone that's work, I feel like we're a lot more patient because I know they have to, get the call done in 10 minutes and, they're probably working in an awful place. But, that like, I'm going to be on hold for 3 minutes and I'll be right back. Just letting them know, that you do care about the time. I hate it when they just like put me on hold. It's a mute. You don't know if they hung up on you or not. So I always try to be good about setting expectations, because at the end of the day, I feel that removes a lot of the tension. It's kind of like an investment you make,
Mm-hmm.
and I think people trust you more when you show respect for their time.
Okay, so actually telling people what you're going to do next is actually the best way to communicate, right? Instead of keeping them in the dark. Okay, I would agree.
Yeah,
I like
and
that.
respecting their time. I think folks like Clockify probably know, the importance of time.
Yes, we do.
It's the one thing. All right, so it's just letting them know I respect that. I know your time is valuable, even if you choose to use that time on your couch watching, listicles on YouTube. That's your time. So I'm going to be mindful of that and letting you know how much of that I'm going to need to solve your problem.
Okay, cool. Well, that's a good attitude to take. So there's a fact here that I have actually some research. It's from HubSpot, and I'm really interested to know your opinion. So it says that 81% of customers actually bought a video or a service when they watch a brand's video, and 97% of marketers say videos help to increase the user understanding of their product or service. So as somebody that is heavily involved in video production, we're really interested to know whether, is video marketing such a powerful, business tool to promote their products or services? Just, based on this fact, would you agree with it? Like, are the numbers really this high?
Yes and no.
No, yes.
It's my answer. Right. Okay. Because yes, I do think video is a great and an amazing tool for storytelling. I think storytelling is the main tool, which is like, how do I show you that I understand your issue and that I can solve it, and obviously whichever way helps tell the story and connect with that audience, it's going to be helpful. And video, in my experience, it's super helpful. It's not a one size fits all. I wouldn't say, oh, just do video, and you'll do great. You do need to know, why are you creating that video? I'd say once why am I going to spend this time? What's the objective? What do I want people to feel when they watch the video? What do I want them to do? That's one thing. But then, sometimes it's kind of part of a bigger plan, like maybe you kind of plant that seed with a video, bring in an issue they might not be aware, or they're like, oh yeah, that happens to me. I do need to track my time. Like now I understand, can I go watch this video and go, oh, maybe, if I track my time, I can have a healthier work-life balance, But sometimes a blog might help, not everybody absorbs knowledge the same way. So that's why I'm a big fan of repurposing content, because some people might want to choose watching this video. Some others might be like, what, I want to read on the subway and there's no signal for me to watch a video, but I definitely can read a blog, or save it to read later in bed before going to, to sleep. So I always try to keep that mindset. Yes, video is amazing. It's super important, but it's not, the one size fits all solution. Basically, the one size fits all is understanding who you're talking to and why, and being clear about what you want them to do and what's the benefit they're going to get from doing the action you want them to do. If that's answering your question.
Yes, it is. It is. Because a lot of times, people think that if they can do a video for an ad, it'll be much better than an image or a blog post or, something like that. So we were just curious to see, your experience.
No, and to be honest, blogs, at least from, this client comes to mind. It was this app for Amazon sellers, and videos were great with them, but blogs were great with them, because at the end of the day, many of them were learning how to sell. So, just sharing that knowledge, and making sure we understood what things they were looking for brought a lot of success to us. And those were blogs. Many of them did not have a video and they worked. So, it's just kind of like getting better and better at understanding what an audience is going to want. And then when trying to follow up and to see whether that theory is working or you need the correct course.
So testing it out as well is
testing for sure.
Okay. And what about based on, your opinion and experience? What key skills would you say, a content strategist needs to have?
I think you need, especially as a content marketer, you're going to have projects that maybe you're a content marketer, but the expectation is you do everything. Many people to say, you say content marketing, it's like, oh, so like, is that a community manager? Or can you fix my computer? And it sounds like, I feel like many people might relate, it's like, he does something with the internet, so then it's like, I'm not connected to this website. Can you help me become customer service for family and friends? But I'd say understanding people, both, being able to talk to a client and get clear expectations, being able to talk to a team and deliver clear expectations, being able to support them so they can do their best work. So I would say humility, to know you're not going to have all the answers and you need to be able to rely on your team. If you're lucky enough to have a team, if you need to do everything, you need to do everything. And I think that curiosity to be able to find answers and maybe not go for sometimes you need to be good at but not reinventing the wheel and just going with what works, but also like always keeping that mindset, okay, like what can I learn? Even if what you're learning is to get out of the way and let your team do the work, that's something that's been super challenging to me. And that's been my current learning, just like as I grow in my career, okay, I don't need to do everything. I have people that I can trust that are great, that are going to solve things in a different way. I need to be able to get out of the way. So right now, I'd say for someone at my stage of my career, that's the most important skill, learning when to get out of the way and let your people do their thing and be good about supporting them and letting them fix things their own way. Right now, that's the one for me.
Well, that must be difficult. I mean, it feels to me from my perspective, it would be difficult to just let go and let other people handle it, right?
You're absolutely right. I struggle with that. I think I'm getting better at it, but I struggle.
But what helps you? What helps you, accept that other people can also help out and the results are also good or maybe even better, maybe a little bit worse, but still good enough? Like what helps you get to that point that you don't mind?
Patience, to let them do their thing, to let them fail, and just kind of like guide them, but resist the temptation, especially as a man, we're very used to explaining everything, so it's kind of asking first, are you aware of this? Like, are you familiar with this? Do we need to go through it? That's something that I've been trying to do now, because we all like to think we're the good one, but sometimes I'm like, oh no, I'm mansplaining here, so shut up. But that, I would say giving them the time. Sorry, I kind of lost track, but it's like giving people the time to fail, and also like I try to do a lot of the exercise to remember myself in that position. When I was the one doing like the work on the ground, I mean, to this day, I still hate helicopter management. I'm not the kind of person you want to be breathing on because I get in a really bad mood, so it's kind of like remembering that, like just the same way that I had great bosses that allowed me to fail several times and learn. And in return, then they got a great performance because they trusted me. So that built loyalty on my end and gratitude. It's the same now, I get to do it the other way and try to do the same, which doesn't necessarily mean I get it right all the time, but I certainly try to.
Well, it's good that you're trying. A lot of people don't try, and helicopter managers, you said. So that's important that you're trying. You'll get there, I'm sure.
Hopefully.
So what would you say? So you mentioned a little bit. You mentioned a little bit about target audiences, and it depends on what type of target audience you have or what types of goals you have when it comes to which type of content, whether it's video or blog post. So how would you approach in defining a target audience?
That's a great question, because again, no project is the same. So I'm working in huge projects where you get this file that it's like, here's our analytics, for the last year, here are results from the last campaign. We know what kind of content worked better. So it's like, oh, this is amazing. I got everything I need, I'm good. sometimes it's like we don't know who we're talking to, or they have a totally wrong idea of who they want to talk to. It's like, especially I've done a lot of work with influencers because I actually got my start in the content world as an influencer myself. So in this YouTube channel that I co-founded, but many times, I've found clients that as you start doing your research, you're like, actually, that's not your target audience, that. So because in their mind, that's a target audience. So for the projects that you get everything, that's great. The target audience, it's easy. Then all you need to do is some research or, just test the theory and learn from analytics. But some others, you need to start from scratch. We had this influencer that we worked on last year. She was a food industry influencer, and we didn't really know a lot about the audience. All we knew is that she was aiming to reach for a Europe-based audience, but we didn't even know which countries. So we had to do a bunch of A/B testing. For example, one of the things we learned as we started testing and looking at analytics, which is something I avoided for a long time as a young, not anymore because I did learn, they actually make my job easier, but I avoided for the longest time. So yeah, just testing, for example, to get back to the story, we went with two different campaigns. One was like static image, and then another one was video. And then what we started seeing is the one that's static image, it's getting tons of clicks, but it's not converting. The video is not getting as many, but it's converting a lot more. And they were like, okay, because, this is an influencer, this is a video-based course. So people are like, with the image, they don't really get the feeling of the personality, the tone of voice. Sometimes that can be annoying to some audience. It's just a tone of voice. So the people on the static image had to find out more to make that decision, whether those watching the video could understand, right? Oh, I like this person. She's relatable. Or no, she's annoying. So I'm going to move on. So then we were like, okay, video is a format that is working for us because, well, we get links that are better qualified to convert for us. And that we had to learn, so we had to dedicate like maybe 2 weeks to A/B testing with several groups. That was kind of like a working theory base. And we had to make it work, and it did work, so it's kind of like figuring out how you're going to get that information. It doesn't mean it's easy. The first time I had to figure out a target audience, I probably had a meltdown because I was so afraid, of how to find that information. But then it's kind of like, try to get better.
You got better. So why were you so avoidant of using analytics before, and what made you kind of change? Besides, you said it made your job easier, but how did you kind of make that jump to start using analytics?
Well, why was I refusing to work with those? As a content creator, you're young, it was kind of like the Wild West for content. So I said, we're just going to create something, put it out there, and let's see what happens, So why would I check analytics? Like I'm doing 10,000 things, we were three folks, just like shooting, editing, trying to get someone to pay for content, because you're in Argentina, AdSense is paying nothing and you got a 40% inflation. So you need to figure out how to make money. So we had a lot of things going on. So the last thing, again, as a younger person that feels like they have a lot more answers, I'm like, I don't need that, I'm just going to figure it out. And then one day it's like, oh, actually, people are bouncing here because yes, I spent 2 minutes with the same, kind of like shot, there's nothing changing. So they're checking out, but it's kind of like I hit the wall, I'd love to say, oh, I feel it right away, but no, probably hit a wall for years until I was like, okay, I need to get over myself and jump in there. But mostly it was just feeling overwhelmed. Mm-hmm. Okay. Because you got so many things to do. So it's like, do I also need to do this? And it's like numbers, I'm a creative. I don't want to deal with numbers. So I avoided it for a long time.
So, well, I mean, there are lots of things with content creation, right? So how do you manage to stay focused and especially remotely, right? So you mostly do remote work. So how do you balance all of these things plus the analytics when you finally got into it and all the other, thousands of things that you have to do?
Yeah, that's a great question, and in a way, I was pretty prepared for remote work. I've been working remote since 2008.
Oh,
So, you know, back then I felt like I was cheating. You know, I remember it was like a full-time job for this consulting company, Accenture, actually, I can name it. You know, it was an IT company, so not related at all to what I'm doing now. I did learn project management skills through that job. Uh, but I felt like I was cheating, honestly. I was like, what the hell? I'm home, you know, and my jogging's just like, and like you said, you know, it was a challenging mostly because back then I kind of felt guilty. Like I had to be sending emails all the time just to show I was in front of the computer, you know. But right now, I'd say the main thing for me to stay focused, it's having a dedicated space. You know, it's the best thing for me. Like right now, I'm lucky enough that I have this place where I get to work every day, you know, within my home, but it's just a room for working. So the minute I woke out, I'm off. Before this, you know, at the start of COVID, maybe when I like fully started working from home, I would have my computer on my living room. So it was always there, you know. So I was always feeling anxious, like, oh, you know, I could be working. It's 9 p.m. Why am I being so lazy? You know, chilling when you know, there's always work to be done. You know, I could be making money right now. So I would say having that space. So, you know, when I'm focusing, I'm really focusing, but also like I get to take a break from that. And that helps the focusing aspect because on the other way, you know, it's hard to get out of that mentality of I need to be on 24/7 and I need to be producing all the time, you know, because you want to make your client happy because there's a skill when, you know, you are lucky enough to get to work from home, you know, and have a lot of privilege that maybe people that still have to go somewhere do not have. So there's a bunch of things that might distract you. Even like, oh, you know, my pets are like just being annoying, you know. So it's kind of like I get to lock myself in a place. Time tracking, you know, I don't want to sound like I'm sponsored. You guys are not paying me, but you know, time tracking is a very important aspect of remaining focused because it keeps me accountable. You know, when I'm here, I'm here.
mhm.
And then I get to disconnect and be out, but also I get to see a number that shows, yeah, you actually did stuff, you know. Yeah, I would say that's right now my current hack. It comes and goes, you know. Sometimes it might not work, but trying to have like be prepared in advance, how a dedicated space works. When I'm traveling, I feel a lot more anxiety. You know, I try to know ahead of time what's going to be the Wi-Fi connectivity situation, you know, but when I go home to Argentina, many times you don't get the best connection. So that's stressing. And when I'm feeling anxious, I have a harder time concentrating. So I would say preparation and having a dedicated space and knowing what the Wi-Fi situation is going to be help focus a lot.
Okay, so definitely the Wi-Fi needs to be fine so you don't have anxiety. But I think a lot of people, especially people that travel, kind of always anxious about what the space that they're going to have to be working in is going to be like. But what about other distractions? So I've seen your YouTube channel, the one that you've co-founded. I don't really understand it, unfortunately. But it looks really delicious. All of the videos and the food looks great. But I noticed I wanted to check your Instagram. To, you know, check you out as well on there as well, besides LinkedIn. But I've noticed that you don't have Instagram anymore. So I kind of, we kind of talked a little bit about it and thought maybe was that like a anti-distraction strategy, or like is that what you did with Instagram?
You folks are good. You folks are really good. I mean, I can tell you're also, you know, you can understand the challenges of the industry, and it's actually back. The Instagram is back. It's public. You can go watch all the photography. You know, it's kind of dedicated to photography. But as you said, you know, sometimes, especially with all the things going on in the world, you know, you kind of need to, especially creatives, I feel creatives have a special sensibility where things maybe sometimes can affect you more than it could other people because there's a layer of protection that allows you to create because you're able to connect with people and connect with their needs, but also you absorb a lot of that. And sometimes social media gets overwhelming. So I do make it a point, you know, when I feel like it's like you said, it's being distracting. And not necessarily, you know, I'm not working enough. I'm gonna delete Instagram, but just like because it becomes so stressing and enraging. Sometimes I'm like when I'm noticing at getting to that point, I just take a break, you know, disconnected. I'm lucky enough that right now I don't need to be 24/7 in social media. I've been there, done that, and it's awful. Like every influencer I work with, even the most successful, they're all going crazy. They're all super stressed, anxious, So I kind of like challenge myself to disconnect. And to be honest, every time I disconnect, the first few days it feels weird, and then you don't think about it. It's kind of like losing your phone. But somehow, you always come back. Right now I'm back.
You're back.
I don't know for how long, but I'm back on Instagram, and I do delete it from my phone. I only like reinstall the app on the weekends, and then at Sunday night I delete it, and that works right. And if at any point gets distracting, like you said, I just delete it. If anyone is interested in finding me, they can still find me. So yeah, that works out for me right now. I always try to like protect my mental health so I can focus on what matters, which doesn't mean you ignore what's going on. It's just that you need to be good about dedicating a certain space and knowing when to stop. Because at the end of the day, if you go crazy and if you get depressed or anxious, you're no good to anyone, including yourself, first of all. So it's kind of like learning about what works and what doesn't. And to be honest, social media can be great and it's great, but also sometimes it does feel like a reminder of all the things you don't have that you don't really need, but it's constantly reminding you what you don't have. You don't have that trip, you don't have that whatever,
So. And I think it's also like, I don't know about you or other people, but if I go to Instagram, it's to kind of relax, in the morning when I'm having coffee or in the evening if I'm bored. But then you're kind of bombarded with a lot of things like news, something, and you went to that kind of space to relax. And then you kind of suddenly see that. So it gets toxic for me in those moments when you're not expecting it.
Exactly.
So
exactly that. You're so either I'm portraying my anxiety about something out there in the world, I'm making other people anxious, or I have friends, and again, very sensitive people. You get stressed about things, there are painful things going on and they are going to affect you. So then we're all like kind of like with this hot potato that we're throwing each other, while we pretend, that we're living our best life. So in a way, that's why I don't go there. But I really like that TikTok, everybody, it's kind of like messier and it feels a lot more real. And I feel people are kind of seeing like, at the end of the day, it's like it's another reality show, social media, it's as real as watching The Bachelor. So so you kind of need to enjoy it, but it's kind of like everything, not in excess. Everything in excess is bad. So yeah, it's good to walk away from social media every now and then.
Yeah, occasionally, I agree. I think that your tactic is really cool. On Sunday, you just delete it and you don't see it for the rest of the week. I might actually keep that in mind.
I recommend it. Honestly, that's been so good to me. So I really recommend it.
Oh yeah, I'll keep that in mind. I mean, I like the tip. It sounds kind of like I've not deleted my Instagram, but I can walk away from it while still having it somewhere. I've never thought of that. So it's actually a really cool idea. It kind of helps you prioritize your mental health and in life, like general stuff like projects and stuff.
Yeah.
So besides deleting Instagram and other social media on Sundays, how else do you kind of help yourself prioritize your tasks? And besides Clockify, which techniques do you kind of use for time management?
Well, Clockify is a great ally, managing my time. But one thing I also do, you might relate to this, but every Sunday around 5 p.m., 6 p.m., I start to get the Sunday scaries, like, oh my God, the weekend is coming, like week's coming, all these bombs and fires are waiting for me. So what I do every Sunday is I go into my Google Calendar and start kind of thinking, okay, these are the things I'm going to have to tackle this week, and I try to focus on what's the most important, because also many times it's tempting to procrastinate by doing a lot of not meaningful, like tasks that are not meaningful, like, I'm going to review every spreadsheet that I ever created and align it. And that's just wasting time by being busy. So it kind of helps in not, this is going to divide my time. One thing that I try to do, and again, it's a challenge, is put the thing that is going to be the most challenging in the morning when I'm better, when I'm most active. Usually I try to get up early because that's when I'm the sharpest. Then like starting 2 or 3 p.m. starts to decline very fast. So I know that I have this window of opportunity in the morning that it's when I can get the most stuff done, and I'm like really sharp, and then it starts declining, and I've embraced that. So I get all the things that are the hardest in the morning, try to block the time. try to silence the notifications from Slack, or because also if I get pop-ups constantly, it's very hard for me. I lose attention very easily, as you can tell. It's very easy for me to be all over the place, which I've embraced it, but it's like also knowing your limitation help you do better. So I silence all notifications. I kind of one thing that I learned from, have you ever read this book, The 4 Hour Work Week by
No,
Tim
I
Ferriss?
haven't.
Okay.
No.
He's not my favorite person on earth, but even then, I can appreciate what works. Obviously, he's very successful and smart, so he's doing something right for sure. Might agree or disagree on the method or how that's told to other people. But one thing I learned, is that I don't have to be checking my email all the time. Mm-hmm. So it's like I check my email maybe in the morning. Some people recommend not doing that, but I'm like, I just want to know what's waiting for me. But I'm also like, I snooze a lot. That's something that I learned, with the Gmail snooze.
I know.
So I'm like, okay.
I use that option as well.
So when I was talking to you folks, it's like, I cannot answer right now, but maybe, later today I will. So it's like, okay, I'll deal with this 5 p.m. Mm-hmm. It's on my account. So I snooze it. I read it, but I snooze it. So I felt like I've acknowledged that I already got started. That act of snoozing helps me be like, okay, I'm going to work on this and remove that anxiety. Mm-hmm. But then once I check that email for hours, if anything's super important, I know the phone's going to ring.
Exactly.
And, so I'm not a brain surgeon. No one's waiting for me to jump into the operating room to save a life. We're creating content that it's very important. It's learning content. So it's going to empower a lot of people to enrich their life, do better. But at the end of the day, if I want to get that job right, I need to focus on that. So I need to remove all distractions. Mm-hmm. And it's a challenge. It's a constant challenge because also sometimes you're working with social media, which is literally designed to distract you.
And if you do it as a job, the line is kind of thin, right? Between.
Exactly. So it's a work in progress. It's kind of like you need to be aware that that's going to happen and embrace that that's going to happen and not torture yourself, which again, it's like you say, you're walking this fine line and sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. And hopefully with time, you learn to be better at understanding what's going to make you fall through the rabbit hole. So yeah, so remove distractions. If you're lucky enough, get a place where you can be isolated from distractions and, just keep practicing and getting better at it, because also you need to embrace you're not going to get it right all the time.
Well, yeah, nobody can. And I think that just accepting that you're going to still make mistakes, right, is a really big step in removing a lot of the anxiety around all of these things that we all feel every day.
Yeah.
So I've got the LinkedIn post in which you mentioned that, some apps that help you, maintain this work-life balance so that we don't fall down this rabbit hole. Mm-hmm. And one of them was Clockify. You've already, talked a little bit about Clockify, yeah. And you already mentioned Clockify, and why was Clockify your choice of apps? I'm assuming you choose other apps, right? I mean, you've tried other apps before Clockify, or was Clockify, the first one you came onto, and you just stayed with it? No,
you folks came into my life later in my career, just a couple of years ago. I had actually chosen another app when I started freelancing, and I wasn't that great at it, so also like building the habit of tracking time took a while and took patience and took a few attempts, where being like, I can't deal with this and just, I'd rather feel stressed and avoid it. But then I went with this app, and for a while it worked very well because I could track my time, send automated invoices. And to me, it's like at the end of the day, this app needed to solve a problem for me. And needed to solve a problem in something that I dislike, which is numbers and dealing with reports. I'm not gonna lie, it's part of the job, but I don't like it. So I needed something that would solve that issue for me. And for a while, that app was pretty dependable. But then it started happening that I would connect and maybe my hours for the last week were gone, or the app would be down, and obviously I'm a freelancer. I bill by the hour. So not knowing what I did on Monday means that I either work for free or I'm like, trying to guess by my emails and the work I did, how many hours, and at least for me, again, that's stressful.
Sounds very stressful.
It sounds stressful, and then like customer, I do have to acknowledge the customer support was great, but again, the app is super limited. It's not reliable. So if you're not solving the problem, you're becoming the problem. So I had to look for other options. And to be honest, I searched for a couple of options, and all of them fell short on something. A lot of, it was like something was missing, or when I had to test them, before I commit to buying, I need to test. I need to understand how this is going to work for me. So just it was very limited, or I don't know, something fell off. And then I found you, and I was pretty surprised with the functionality, and how easy it became to have different projects. It was very dependable on one feature that I love. Many times I would I'm done with work. I'm exhausted because it was a hard day. I turn off the computer, go on the computer the next day, and I'm like, 20 hours, the counter's still running. I'm like, oh God, I forgot to stop it, So I really like the fact that I got that feature that I can, when I lock my computer, it stops the clock, because I forget about it all the time. So it's kind of even though, the learning curve, if you work with other time tracking apps, it's not as steep. It might, in the beginning, it might feel like, oh, there's so many options. But then, as you start learning I really like that it's easy. If you don't need that many options, it's kind of easy to get started. But then as you get more comfortable and start playing around with it, it's like you can customize so many things, and it really works for me. At the end of the day, what I like the most about Clockify is I don't have to think about it. It's kind of, as in my day, it's kind of like coffee, it's like boom, and it's not going to be a problem, which is what I value the most. It's solving something for me, and it's not constantly in my mind. It's kind of like, at this point, it's kind of like my computer, my coffee, it's something that it's part of my day. I really appreciate that, and it's good to say, because there are so many apps that suck, or so many apps that try not to suck, but they still did not get it right. So, and especially working in startups, I kind of get an idea of what it might feel like to work for Clockify. So it's like, I like to promote that because it's a great service, so I like to let other people know, hey, this is making life easier for me. I love sharing. So
thanks so much. That's great of you. So nice of you. We're super happy to hear. Yeah, it's always great to hear people that use Clockify, their unique experiences based on how it helps them, and everybody has a different feature that they like. And as you said, Clockify, it can be as simple as you want it to be, or as complicated as you need it to be. There's so many options that you don't have to use, but that you can use if you want to, or upgrade, or whatever kind of. It's easy to kind of mold to your needs, as you mentioned, right? So back to the post, you said that there's some premium features, that you said that Clockify's premium plan offers kind of more opportunities. I think this is to do with what you just mentioned now, right? So you don't have to use all of these options, but there's some of them that are really helpful. So which one was to you which made you say that?
Obviously the invoicing, you folks have so many features. I actually, I started going through your website as I was learning more, reading the blogs. I didn't even know you all had a blog. So I was like, oh, there's a blog, let's see what you're creating about. But it's like, honestly, I should have prepared for this one. But if you give me a minute, I can check. I actually knew which feature I like the most. But it's like, honestly, I just like the fact I don't have to think about the features. It's so embedded on my day-to-day.
You don't even make a difference between them. It's just there, and it just does the job, right?
It's there, exactly. Which I think it's kind of the end goal for all of us. Being so good that they don't have to think about me. It's just something that it's already there. Again, it's like coffee. It's like my computer. It's already there. Again, you folks are not paying me for it, but it's like without Clockify, my day would be a lot more stressful. So just the fact that I don't need to think about the features.
That's even, you kind of explained everything by saying you don't even know which feature, because it's just doing its job, right?
And I like the fact, that if I choose to do more, there's even more, because honestly, I feel like I'm using 30% of the features you'll have. So I haven't even begun to scratch the surface. So that's like, wow, it's mind blowing.
So nice of you to say thank you. Thanks for, your open feedback about Clockify. It means so much to us, and also super happy that it's helping you, right? That's our goal at the end of the day, to help people be more productive and do more and see the numbers, because time is like, you can't really put a number to time, but with time tracking, you can in a way, as much as possible. So do you think that freelancers should use time tracking software in general?
I strongly recommend it. I wish I could have said that to me 10 years ago. Like, build it. Like, it doesn't matter. It's going to suck in the beginning, because also having the numbers makes you accountable on whether, you're like, you need to face things like, I fell into the trap. I'm sure you as well. I'm working 15-hour days, 6 days a week because, freelancer. You always feel like this gig is the last one. Who knows what's coming next? I need to be ready for a rainy day, So it kind of keeps you accountable for, this is not sustainable. I don't even know. I mean, maybe I'm making this up, so feel free to cut it. But I feel like the app maybe tells you like I'm sorry, what's the other one? Like, you're spending too much time. Take a break. This is not healthy. So, but it keeps you accountable, helps you understand, where you're spending the time and whether it's making the biggest impact. Just the same way that right now the challenge I'm working on is allowing myself to delegate and get out of the way and be more like a mentor or someone that is helping other people grow in their career. If I think about 10 years ago, my number one challenge was procrastinating by being busy. When something would overwhelm me, I would be very good at finding a task that could consume 10 hours and accomplish nothing of impact. So even though I'm not really just the 80-20 rule, but it's like, yes, so it's good to know how you're spending your time, because it helps you be like, okay, like I spent 4 hours on that. Did it really make an impact? How could I do this better? And not necessarily means I'm going to work like a robot, but it's like, even for myself, am I taking time from the people I love, my friends? So I think time tracking is crucial for you to understand which projects are not going anywhere, which projects, you're being good at it. And so then you kind of learn from it, and which projects are not worth it. Sometimes, especially as a freelancer, for those getting started, you just spend 60 hours in a week working for a project that is not really worth the time, and I'm not saying you're not going to do it, because at the end of the day, we all need to pay rent and we all need to pay the bills. But it does help you as you learn more people and maybe get more opportunities to be like, maybe it's time to drop this one. This is not something I need to do anymore. And I think you can only reach that point where you know how you're spending your time, and at the end of the day, especially I think after COVID, I think we're all becoming aware of, even though it's easy to lose track of time. Like sometimes I don't even know what day it is. I asked my partner yesterday, like, oh, is it Thursday? Damn. Because, every day sometimes can feel the same. So time tracking is helpful to kind of like ground you, and both from a mental health perspective, but also, to understand how's work being spent. Like, is there, am I wasting time? Because at the end of the day, we only have one life. We don't know when it's ending. So time is very valuable. And especially for freelancers, it's very easy to lose track of that and, not pay attention to things that are super important in life besides work. So as you get the privilege, because sometimes, I do want to be mindful. Sometimes you don't get that chance, especially if you're starting, you just need to work. But, having that time and building that habit early on will help you through time be better, get better jobs, understand better what's the kind of client you want to work with, and also make yourself accountable for not drowning in work, whether because you want to avoid something in life or whether because you're overwhelmed about another project and you just make yourself busy. So you feel like you're working, but you're just like, going around in circles, accomplishing nothing. So yeah, that's kind of like my take.
Well, that's some great advice. I think that, even for me, it's good to be reminded to be mindful. And I hope that our viewers will also kind of keep in mind what you just said, especially people just starting out in the freelance with after COVID and already working from home and all of the chaos that we can kind of fall into. Thank you so much. I would like to end this lovely interview with you today. Would you like to say anything like for the end to our viewers, anything that you'd like to,
For all freelancers, know your worth. That's my advice, especially those creatives, because we love what we do. It's very easy for us to feel guilty about getting paid to do it. No, they need us. So know your worth, surround yourself by people, share knowledge, don't be selfish, help each other, build a group of creatives, and you help each other get jobs, celebrate the accomplishments of other people. That helps you become better. Learn from the people you like, learn from the people you don't like, everyone. If you got a boss, it's very easy to say, bosses don't understand anything. Many times they can be challenging, but if they got there's something they're doing right. So be curious as well, but fundamentally know your worth.
That's great advice. Thank you so much. It was lovely to talk to you today. I really appreciate your time. Thank you so much for sharing, your experience and all of your advice. It was super interesting to listen to and really helpful as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you. You have a beautiful app, I'm very thankful. You make my life easier. So thank you, Clockify. And now thank you for taking the time.
Yeah, thank you on behalf of all of Clockify. We really appreciate it. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for joining us in our interview today. We hope you enjoyed it as much as we did. And make sure that you subscribe to all our social media and follow us on YouTube so that you can keep up with all of our next interviews.